Often when people think about a holiday in Mexico, they are thinking about a beach vacation, and there's a good reason for that. Mexico has an unbelievable number of beautiful beaches. In this video, I compare my 3 favorite beach cities in Mexico so that you have a great idea on where to go for your next beach vacation. The sand, the water, and the beach itself is, of course, super important in a beach location, but I'm actually going to go much beyond that and give you an overview on the city itself, including food, accommodations, cost, ease of travel. So it's tough for me to pick a favorite because I actually absolutely love all 3 of these locations. But I'm going to start with the location that's probably the least well known, and that's Puerto Escondido. So Puerto Escondido is located on the Pacific Ocean in the state of Oaxaca in southern Mexico. It has about 50,000 approximately residences, and so is a small to medium-sized city, more like a small city. The main attraction originally in Puerto Escondido for tourism was Zicatela Beach, which is actually shown here. So this is a world famous surfing beach for expert surfers. The waves get huge here. They have surfing competitions. And as you can also see here, the beach is absolutely massive, both massive from the road or the start of it, like the depth of it, and also the length of it. So it's great for walking. You can walk on this beach. It feels like it just never ends, and it kind of doesn't. The waves are too strong for swimming, so it is beautiful. It's great for sunsets. And of course, if you're a good surfer. Now, Puerto Escondido does have other beaches though. So if you're looking for swimming beaches, it does have other beaches. That's what's actually one of the interesting things about Puerto Escondido is the variety of beaches. So there's hidden coves, and then there's Zicatela, and really it kind of has everything as far as beaches. As far as swimming beaches, your best 3 are probably Carrizalillo, Manzanillo, shown here, and Angelito. I actually did a full video about Puerto Escondido, the ultimate guide to Puerto Escondido, and in that video I also touch upon much more to do with both the beaches and traveling to Puerto Escondido. So I'll leave a link to that in the description and or the comments. Now, as far as the weather between the 3 beach locations that are my favorite in Mexico, I'd say Puerto Escondido is probably the best of the 3. It's in southern Mexico. It's pretty much always hot, or at least, let me rephrase that, in the season when you will be going there for a beach vacation. So there are rainy season in all locations, but when it's the North American winter, it is warm and hot and sunny in Puerto Escondido. Probably has the best weather of the 3. As far as the vibe in Puerto Escondido, it really feels to me like a surf town, a beach town, a backpackers town. There is a lot of Spanish spoken here, and a lot of the tourists are either national or maybe from other Spanish speaking countries. As far as services available in town, there are hospitals, there are supermarkets, there are markets. Now, this is the smallest of the 3 beach locations that I'm going to be discussing, so there is less services, but it does still feel like a fairly well-equipped city. It just does not feel like a big city at all. So everything kind of revolves around the beaches and the restaurants and the vibe again is just a surfing and beach vibe. As far as accommodation, there are almost no all-inclusives in Puerto Escondido. So there's a lot of smaller hotels and Airbnbs. That is kind of the range of most of the accommodations. Cost-wise, I consider Puerto Escondido to be fairly cost-effective, but the thing with Puerto Escondido not being a huge city is when the accommodations fill up, they fill up. So it's not like some of the other locations where there's just condos under construction, huge ones all the time. Here there are the hotels, the Airbnbs, some apartments and condos, that type of thing. But once they are booked up, the prices can kind of start to climb because there's just not the option of thousands and thousands of hotel rooms like there are in some of the other locations. Restaurants, there's a pretty good variety and a variety of price points, but here, more than the other two locations that I'm going to discuss, the location where you are in town has a lot to do with the cost of the restaurants and what's available. Near Zicatela, there's a lot of international food and the cost is probably more. When you're in Centro, it's a lot of tacos and tlayudas and it is much more affordable. The ease of travel to Puerto Escondido is going to be a little bit more difficult than the other two locations that I'm going to discuss because while it does have an international airport, most of the flights are domestic. So unless you're coming from inside the country of Mexico, you will probably have to take a domestic flight to Puerto Escondido, because it's just a much smaller location and doesn't have many international flights, unlike a few other destinations in Mexico that have daily or hourly international flights arriving. So overall, I would say Puerto Escondido would be a great place to go if you don't mind getting a little bit out of your comfort zone, and definitely if you're not into an all-inclusive type of atmosphere. If you're looking to practice your Spanish, this might be a great place to go because you don't hear that much English. The food is also very authentic, as it is in a lot of locations, but here you can try tlayudas and cuisine that's a little bit different than some of the more well-known Mexican beach cities. The second beach city that I'm going to discuss in this video is Playa del Carmen. Playa del Carmen is a lot bigger and a lot more well known than Puerto Escondido. It is located in the state of Quintana Roo in the Maya Riviera and is about a 1 hour drive south of the CANCUN airport. Playa del Carmen has 300,000 to 400,000 people and is really growing at an incredible rate. It's one of the fastest growing cities in Latin America, and it really feels like that. You see condos and new developments and buildings kind of springing up everywhere, wherever you are in the city. As far as the beaches itself in Playa del Carmen, you have a real treat and a real variety of beautiful, beautiful beaches with white sand and aqua teal water. I actually did a really detailed video about all the beaches in Playa del Carmen, and you can find that on my channel. I'll also put a link in the description and the comments. One thing I really like about Playa del Carmen beaches is they're pretty much all good for swimming, but you can really choose how busy you want the beach. So the beach near the ferry terminal is generally quite busy, but the further you go out of downtown, It gets less and less busy, but the beach itself is just as beautiful or potentially even more beautiful. So you can kind of really pick if you want busy, medium busy, or almost secluded. What a beautiful day. So stunning. Amazing blue sky and sunny. As far as the weather in Playa del Carmen, I'm gonna have to say of the 3 locations that I'm going to review, it probably has the worst weather. Now the weather isn't terrible, but it's the most northern of the 3 locations, and so it can get not cold, but it can get a little chilly and breezy in November, December. So as far as weather, while it's not bad, it's more just unpredictable. The vibe in Playa del Carmen is of a busy, big, very successful, happening beach town. You see people from all over the world here, and there's always a traveler arriving and leaving. Seeing somebody pull a suitcase down the street is like, you see it every few minutes. It kind of cracks me up. As far as services, hotels, accommodations, I'm going to group all that together in Playa del Carmen. And just to say, there is a lot. There's tons of doctors, there's hospitals, there's big supermarkets, there's lots of shopping. There's really everything you need. It's a very modern city with banks, with really everything. And the hotels, there's all sorts of different tiers. So there's kind of hostels, there's super high end, there's everything in between. There's Airbnbs, there's really everything. So as far as finding what you want in Playa del Carmen, of the 3 locations that I'm discussing in this video, it would be number 1 for services. One thing, if you've never been to Playa del Carmen, it's really amazing the number of restaurants here of all price points too. You can get authentic tacos for 15 pesos, 20 pesos, like $1. And you can also get super high end and pretty much everything in between. As far as ease of travel to get to Playa del Carmen, it is probably number 1 for easiest. Although you do have to fly into the CANCUN airport, which is about an hour away from Playa del Carmen. So the CANCUN airport is Mexico's 2nd busiest airport. So there's a million flights coming in to the CANCUN airport. From whatever country you're coming from, there's probably a flight coming into Cancun. So to get to Cancun is really easy. And then to get from Cancun to Playa del Carmen is about an hour. You can take a bus, a taxi, a shuttle. There's many different options. And again, I did a video about the Cancun airport and transportation options on how to get to Playa del Carmen. You can check that out, and I'll leave a link for that too. See these aguris all over the place in Playa del Carmen and the nature areas. They look like a big guinea pig, and they're just kind of chilling all over the place. They're kind of cute. These are actually Mayan ruins. They're kind of right behind the beach and right beside Playa Car and the main kind of tourist area of Playa del Carmen, the mall. So overall, Playa del Carmen, I think, is a great place to go. I'd say it'd be really good for kind of first time maybe to Mexico travelers, as it give you an introduction to the country, and being close to Cancun, you can get in and out of the airport generally pretty easily. So my third location for favorite beach cities in Mexico is Puerto Vallarta. Now, Puerto Vallarta, like Puerto Escondido, is on the Pacific Ocean, Puerto Vallarta is in the state of Jalisco, where they make tequila, and is kind of like in central Mexico approximately. Now, Puerto Vallarta is kind of unique as far as beaches compared to the other two locations, Puerto Escondido and Playa del Carmen, which both have a big variety of beaches right in town. Now, Puerto Vallarta does have beaches in town, but what makes it unique as far as the beaches is it also has many, many, many beaches outside of town. So both to the south, which probably is where the nicest beaches are located, south of Puerto Vallarta, and also to the north, you have Nayarit, so another state that's close to Puerto Vallarta, and also has a whole bunch of other beach towns or cities, small towns, more like towns. So really, Puerto Vallarta, while it has beaches in town, they are not the best. They're not bad. Some are decent, but really Puerto Vallarta is different from the other two in that you kind of have to search out the really, really nice beaches. But that being said, there's almost an unlimited number of beaches if you do want to go and find them outside of town. As far as weather, and I mean, it kind of seems to change year by year, but this year, Puerto Vallarta's weather was unbelievable from when I was there and when I was checking the weather before I got there and after I left. It was just pure sunshine every day. So I would say of the three locations, and again, it does change by the year. And this is in Canada's winter because that's when I would be in Mexico and when I love to go to Mexican beach locations. Is Puerto Escondido probably has the nicest weather if you like really, really hot. Then Puerto Vallarta and then Playa del Carmen, although if you're into slightly cooler, you might prefer Playa del Carmen. It was just the wind and the rain in Playa del Carmen, which seemed to come too often. But Puerto Vallarta's weather, every time I check, I don't know, it's just sunshine, 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 and like 28, 29 degrees, just kind of perfect. Now, the vibe of Puerto Vallarta is, surprise, surprise, like a beach town. But as I had mentioned, because the nicest beaches aren't really in Puerto Vallarta, I find that it's not so much based around the beach. And a lot of it is actually, Puerto Vallarta feels to be based around the Malecón, which is really nice for walking. And also, restaurants it seems to have a really strong restaurant culture, and I feel that people are just kind of visiting the restaurants as really something to do to really try all these great restaurants in Puerto Vallarta. As far as services, Puerto Vallarta is a fairly large city, a few 100,000 people, so it does have good services as well. I'd say Playa del Carmen is probably the most well-equipped with services, but Puerto Vallarta does, of course, have doctors and hospitals and supermarkets. It would definitely have a lot more than Puerto Escondido, but potentially not quite as much as Playa del Carmen. As far as hotels and accommodation, you do get a pretty good range, although I feel that of the three, it would be the most expensive for accommodations. The kind of lower end accommodations I don't really see too much of, and because Playa del Carmen just has so much construction, I think they are able to supply more hotel rooms and condos, whereas Puerto Vallarta, while there are construction projects, is not near as much. So I feel as far as the hotels, accommodations, and the cost, it may be the most expensive of the three. Restaurants I kind of touched on already, but the restaurants in Puerto Vallarta are, again, I find fairly expensive, but really good. There's just a lot of really, really good restaurants. So you might need to bring a bit bigger budget to go out to restaurants here, although there are taco stands and really a good variation of different restaurants. But I'd say Here it feels kind of just a step up, as there's probably more kind of fancier restaurants here if that's what you're looking for. As far as ease of travel, Puerto Vallarta has a lot of flights. So it's a pretty big airport, not as big as Cancun, but it is close to the city, quite close to the city. So every day there's many both domestic and international flights coming in and out of Puerto Vallarta. So the overall outlook on Puerto Vallarta, again, it's a phenomenal place to go. If you're into restaurants, this might be the place for you. As far as beaches, you do have to kind of search them out. So really, it kind of depends a bit what you're looking for, but definitely another one of my favorite spots for beaches in a beach city in Mexico. I hope you enjoyed my video about my 3 favorite beach cities in Mexico, and hopefully the information will make it easier for you to choose one or maybe all 3 to visit. I don't often ask this, but if you could please subscribe to my channel, it's growing, just not growing quite quick enough. I would love if you would subscribe and hit a like, and if you have any comments, please put them in the comment section. I'd love to hear what you're thinking, and if you have any opinions, I would really appreciate that. And from the beautiful beach cities of Puerto Escondido, Playa del Carmen, and Puerto Vallarta, we will see you next time.